All right, thanks all for joining. This is design review number 39, I think. This one's about saving Satoshi. So I'm in a weird position where I host these calls and I also worked on the project. So full dictator mode here or whatever. And it's exciting time for this project. So thanks for joining. We're about 2 years in, and team is just wrapping up like pretty much what the big initial vision of like 10 chapters of content, right? Going to present at TapConf next week. So it's a really exciting time after 2 years of pretty hard work by a whole bunch of people. But I was actually wondering, you can let me know if you want to do this or not, of starting this by getting hands on. Everyone pulling up. I would go to, if I can actually send you a dev link, because I have this pull request where I updated a lot of the images and it just looks a little nicer with those images in there. If you use that one, you can also just go to savingsatoshi.com or dev.savingsatoshi.com or this Purcell link that I shared. And maybe just give chapter one a try. I can also do it here in the background. If you want to do it together, that's also cool. Just let me know. And then afterwards we can dig into a bit, because it's important right now for the project, for the team to get feedback as this is kind of coming together.
Okay.
Daniel, have you tried it before?
Yes, I have, but it was a very long time ago. It must
Yeah.
have been like version 1 or something after a hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be fun to see it again.
Yeah. So does anyone want to share their screen and talk through it, what they see and how they experience it?
I'm happy to share. I mean, I think we can take turns, but I'm on this
Mm-hmm.
this one here now.
Okay.
I guess I should go back to the first one. This just feels totally like I like how clean it is. It's just like let's go. It's just telling me let's go. So I'm interested now. I'm pulled in because I see the word mysteries. So I'm like, I want to be a superhero. So let's go. So here is chapters. I like the visuals. I like the colors here. I like the playfulness of the copy. The only thing that's not super nice is that it's above the fold. Like that's sort of halfway there. I don't know if you see that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you can't really do anything about that because those really nice big visuals are super nice as well because that kind of fits in very nicely like this. Um, Not the end of the world, but I like the storyline because I looked at the older version, which is live on the website, and it seems to be that this is updated. So it's written almost.
That is correct. So the story has been in the works for 2 years. A whole bunch of people contributed to it. I think Andrew, Art, Zip, 16-bit Summer, Stacy, Jonas as kind of the main driver. Just a whole bunch of people have chipped in on that one, and they're just kind of tidying up the last little bits right now of like internal story consistency, and it's believable and all of this stuff right now. Which it's kind of tricky because you need to come up with a story set in the future that also aligns with the lesson content that's being taught. So
It's reading
there's a
like
lot of
a.
work there.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go for it. I'm done
It's reading
rambling.
like a suspense book because suddenly the network grinds to a halt. So I'm like, okay, tell me more. Let's go. I want to just keep on clicking. So that's good. I like this sort of futuristic TV coming out of nowhere. That's nice. Um, Moments later, your hover screen activates. The well-dressed CEO. You run one of the biggest. Okay. Da, da, da. This is a protest. No one wants Bitcoin to stop being issued at 21 million. Miners cannot survive on fees alone. And then I can see what's ahead of me. There's probably going to be this three other steps I need to unlock. So it's telling me that there's probably something I need to do here. Um, it's focusing me on the name of the chapter that I'm on, and I'm on the introduction. And I guess here I would fill in my profile. Sign in, enter your private key to restore your account and progress. So I'm going to have a private key there. I like it. I don't know if anyone else wants to share screen. I feel like I did enough. And there's the HoloCat. Like the HoloCat's just central to everything. He's just the pet cat of the project. So that's nice. But yeah, if anyone else wants to go ahead and share, um, I do like that there's a nice balance between copy and images. I like that there's more image than copy because it keeps with that playfulness of the design. The only thing that I would question is the how would you say the level of English used. Um, I'm guessing since art is on the team, you know who your target audience is, but it does tend to be it's not like rocket science, but it tends to be slightly more for a native English speaker. So that's just one observation, but that's it.
Yeah, I would just add that the target audience are coders who are interested in Bitcoin. So you don't
Mhm.
learn coding here; you learn Bitcoin coding, right? So it's not for everyone, right? There are some expectations there set. So maybe that ties into. I think if you can code in English, right? This doesn't have localization of anything, right? So if
Yeah.
you can code in English, it assumes a bit of that knowledge. That's a good point. Yeah. Do you maybe want to go all the way through to one challenge?
Yeah, I have to say I like it that the focus that in terms of how it's designed, it's very clear where I need to have my focus. I need to have my focus on first reading the text, and then I'm using the image to read to figure out the whole storyline. There's no distractions over here. There's a very strong call to action. This is how design should be. All Bitcoin wallets take from this example, please. Not really possible. Okay, so on your everything watch, you receive a Whiskerware brand Hollycat. Okay, and he's using the name Satoshi Nakamoto. So I'll skip. You better get to work. I can help, but you have to start meow. I like that. It's playful. It's yeah, nice. Okay, now I have my first challenge. Um, Bitcoin is sensitive. Okay, anybody can send money by broadcasting a transaction. After broadcasting, blocked by miners. Mine is complete against other miners for privilege. Okay, this is what keeps Satoshi, the pseudonymous inventor of Bitcoin, also mined the first Bitcoin block. He left the world a secret message in the very first Bitcoin transaction that was ever made. Your first challenge is to find and decode it. Nice. So I'm being pulled in again with this mystery, and it's pushing me to want to go forward. So it's nice. The first challenge, let me just a small observation on the so here you've got this sort of this playful copy here. I don't know what font this is, but it almost feels like that could also be here, but I don't know. It's I feel almost like the first challenge should be a little bit more. At the same time, I'm not sure because the start button is also a very strong call to action. But yeah, that's just a small 2 cents. To maybe bring in that playful font here. Oh, but it is here as well. So there's that consistency in that design. So you wouldn't bring it in here. No, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I will hand it over to someone else. Or should I click start? Ooh. See,
Keep going.
I've been pulled to click start. Okay, cool. So find the hidden message. Let's find the very first block in the Bitcoin blockchain. Click the button below to open the block explorer exactly at block 0, which is called Genesis. Scroll down, expand the details on one transaction that is stored in this block. Find the input called Coinbase. Now look for the label script sig hex. The value next to it is an encoded message. I need to get the encoded message, and I need to paste the encoded message here. Okay, so I'm gonna view the block. I'm clicking. It's opening another tab. It's opening very slowly. I'm just going to share that tab. Okay, and what do I need to find? I need to find the input called
You're
Coinbase.
not you're not sharing that screen, Mo.
Okay, 1 second. So here, and I'm going to the Block Explorer share. Okay, so I am looking for Coinbase. Okay, search for block height hash. So I guess I'm going to type in Coinbase because I have to search and there are no results found. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Let me go back to the instructions. Find the input called Coinbase. So let me go back. I need to find the input. This is blocks, dashboard, transactions. The input called Coinbase. Okay, well, I'm just going to scroll because here it is. Okay, I found it. So now look for the label script sig hex. So I need to find a label. It's called script sig hex. Do I need to click this to find that label? Do I need to click this? Okay, I'm just trying to click around. Maybe if I open up details, I'll find script sig hex. Okay, I'm opening up details. Let's open up the details of this one. Okay. So here it is, script sig hex. So that's this one. And then what do I need to do? The value next to it is an encoded message. Okay. So copy and paste. There we go. So I'll share
Can you
this
please?
one instead.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've copied and pasted it, and I'm going to click next. And now it's asking me to decode. We need to decode the message. The message was encoded in a format called hex. Now we will run a command to turn it into ACI, which we'll be able to read. Copy and paste the command below into the terminal.
So Mo, you don't necessarily have to continue here. I think
Okay.
this was kind of a good example of how what the experience is like. You're totally welcome to continue afterwards. So if everyone says like, I want to play this right now, we can turn this into a play session and everyone goes off. Just
That was fun.
say it in the comments. But you can kind of see how it starts like very visual with the story, and then it starts taking you through the unveiling the mysteries. It kind of lives up to that, and it starts you kind of very easy looking up a value on a website, and then it takes you a little bit more into coding. So that's part of kind of the experience, and it gets quite complex towards the end, and I can show some of that. So I wanted to go now back to give them some more input overview of the project itself, and I will share this Google Doc here, which has a bunch of links in it. You're welcome to click around there. So this whole project started with the Bitcoin design community designathon in October 2022. I was asking people, or Mo and I, you were trying to get people to participate in this designathon. We were asking people around, and then Jonas from Chaincoast showed up, and he's like, "Oh, I want to support. I have this idea. I don't know, it's a wild idea, but here's kind of this document, but I cannot help with it because I will be traveling during the designathon for 4 days, right? I can't run the project." And I was like, I got you. I'll just help for a few days. I'll just kick it off. And then when you're back, you take over. And 2 years
Ha
later,
ha ha.
here,
2 years later, right?
here we are.
This is Bitcoin time. This is Bitcoin time.
So, and it's, but if you look at this original document, it says, like, the title's still the same, still called Saving Satoshi. A cypherpunk travels back in time to discover clues about Satoshi's disappearance, encountering imposters, social attacks. There are 2 basic screens. His idea was to use Replit, which is kind of this coding platform that spins up coding environments for you. But there's looking back at that is kind of nice. We're still pretty close to this original idea. There were plot ideas with different lessons. There was a bad guy in there who now goes by a different name. So that's a fun thing to look back. There are also some links to like the first group call recording we had. We had the first submission to Legends of Lightning. This video here, which I think is narrated by Stacy. It's like this slideshow that tells the story. Like this was the first image of the bad guy. He looks very different today. So there are some links in
It's
there.
wild, Christoph, how far AI generated images came,
Yeah.
and how far the project has come along at the same time. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point I'm trying to get to here. And with the visuals, it's kind of easy to see like, oh, that's a crappier looking image. This is a better looking image. But just everything about the project has come so far along. And So you can see like the 1 year later, Legends of Lightning Volume 2, we actually had AI animated trailer here. The problem was that AI could only generate videos that were like a second long before they got really weird. But
That's solved now.
it's I think we're good. I haven't tried it again yet, but it's amazing how much progress is happening in this stuff.
It's funny you say that, because as Mo was going through chapter 1 and me too on my own screen, I was kind of feeling how close it felt like one of those gaming interstitials that are videos in between the places you actually play the game.
Yeah.
That story felt exactly like one of those. And I guess it is, because then you get to the actual kind of, you have to do something, mystery part of it. And you have done more, far more than enough by this point. So I'm not going to suggest anything else, but it got kind of maybe like, this is very close to like actually being that.
Yeah, so let's since we're talking about the image generation, let's just talk about that or just continue with that. So at the time when Saving Satoshi started, it was really the beginning where the first applications. It was just like this massive boom. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can generate images. But and that's where I have 2 design files here for this project. One is for the UX, one is for the images. I'm going to pull those up here in my background as well. So this is the one here that's for the images. And I've kept very thorough track of all the images that were generated for the whole project. Like this is everything in my background here for chapter 1 that was generated. And just, it was at the beginning. Let me get to an even older one here. Like at the beginning, I was just happy to have anything that looks even remotely close. It was a total shot in the dark. The quality or the resolution wasn't good. There was no control. You could not control the characters. You're just like, you couldn't even put a lot of text. The more text you put in, the more weird it got. It was just like, okay, there's a lot of potential here, but it's impossible to really control it. And this is one of those working in public kind of things where it's like, okay, we're just going to iterate this, right? And we're going to have to live with some really crappy stuff being live at the beginning of all of this. And like this guy here, I could not get him render him with a face. What's going on with those hands? Like going into the building, it was just like absolutely And even this one here with the police, it's like I had nothing there, basically nothing I was happy with. But we've come really a long way, and I'll kind of switch to where we are today with this. So today we have a typical thing, or something we've been doing is like we generate character sheets. So there's kind of a description for a character that we think about or so. And then we just generate a whole bunch of these character sheets in isolation, right? With different poses, with different facial expressions, kind of looking, you can tell them what type of clothes to wear. Also, like for our main character. So this is kind of the level of control now, right? For our main character, and as you go through different chapters, the first chapters, he's at home having breakfast. In chapter 6 or 7, he's invited to a TV news studio, and he tries to wear a nice suit. But on the other hand, we don't want him to come across like too fancy, right? So he wears like some goofy cowboy shoes with it. And so, we're thinking, instead of just totally random stuff, we're now thinking about what is this world like? What is this scene like? How are they set? What might they be wearing? What mood are they in? What expressions are they in? So really come a long way with the level of control we have. And so, there might be a scene where you just generate a character in a certain pose. Then, for example, we also have now scene references. Like, for example, at the beginning, there was like no control over the apartment of the protagonist. Then I think this was just last week, guidance from the story team was, oh, our protagonist lives in a 3D printed bungalow. I was like, cool. What does that look like? So after some experimentation, this came out. So I was like, well, that's kind of believable. And then I could use this one to generate interior shots, right? All of a sudden we have a living room, which features the same architectural. And you wouldn't do that, right? But for kind of a sci-fi story, it kind of works. And then we have kind of this workstation here. And then we have a kitchen, which is he has breakfast and gets his first message. And then we have a door, which is important later on when he comes home and like he sees something, right? Which I'm not going to give away. So now we generate buildings separately with very precise direction. We create characters, and then we can combine them. And I can give Midjourney, say, like, here's a image reference is used for the general style. Here's a character reference. I can tell it stay very close to that character or only use him for facial expression, right? And otherwise you can improvise. And I can tell it, there's just a lot of control you have. I feel like a year ago, there was more control over kind of the camera angle and the zoom angle. I feel like that's disappeared again a little bit. But otherwise, it's just really cool to, you know, where we've gotten to, and just the level of quality and detail that goes into this stuff is just super amazing. Something that was also interesting was thinking about the level of futurism. Like, I really think this image is very cool. It's like, oh, was this like a Bitcoin block, or like what is this? Like, I'm in the future. But then again, I could not reproduce this. It was just not in Midjourney, in the data and the images. There was a one-off. There was nothing else there. I think that's another thing. You kind of feel the limits of this stuff pretty quickly, and then it takes you into a certain direction. And you have to go with it, right? Because otherwise you're just into dead ends, which is kind of unfortunate. I think this stuff would have been kind of cool to do more. So generally, the idea of this future was that it's a future where it is futuristic. You get flying cars. They're actually called budget copters that the main character got from his dad, I think, as it's kind of a crappy solo copter, which I have not been able to, like a crappy one-person solo copter. I've not been able to generate a good one if someone wants to help with that. So it's a future that is still meant to feel kind of familiar, not like super crazy sci-fi, but buildings with kind of classical elements with lots of green, generally kind of a happy future because it's hyper Bitcoinized and all the problems are solved, right? That's what we're shooting for. So if you, except for the last 2 months or so, this stock Figma file really has all the images that were generated, including the prompts and links to those respective images too. However, if you want to try some of this stuff or click around some links, you're more than welcome to. However, the prompts don't work the same way anymore. Things have changed. With Midjourney, you work very differently. You work much more with a little bit of text and then giving it images to work with, like character references, style references, image references for different elements. But I absolutely love it. It is so cool what you can come up with. And yeah, then going to the scene overview. This is also something I wanted to talk a little bit about. So these are all the images that are used in the site. If you look at the total Saving Satoshi experience, I did a review. When was that? Recently? Like this design review 24. No, not this one. This is basically behind me now loading Saving Satoshi, all images in the whole experience from chapters 1 to 9, including all the coding challenges and all of the story images too. That's why I went through for design QA, went through the whole experience, used lots of AI to actually solve the coding because it gets super hard, but basically just so I could annotate all of the stuff. This is like the total experience. And for me, from a design perspective, this is really helpful. Now, a simpler version of this one is in the Saving Satoshi images file is a scene overview. Those are all the AI generated images that are used. And that's where you can kind of see. So chapter 1, something dramatic happens. We're like, it's a big plaza. Everyone's looking at the big board, like something's happening. What is happening? You can't tell because I didn't know, like, how do you communicate the Bitcoin network came to a halt in an image? Like, what is that graphic up there? Is it important that that's communicated? No, but that's kind of some of the difficulty stuff there too. Like, how do you establish a scene that works emotionally? I guess it's like, oh, something happened, everyone's looking, and then like the content of that as well. And then we're sitting at breakfast. This is a combination of two different images. There was something else here where the screen is. Photoshop those together here and put in the image of the reporter. Mo, like you said, as soon as that HoloCat image popped up, everyone loved it and it's become the mascot of the. However, it is the hardest thing to recreate this cat in any other pose. It is super difficult. I tried to make it chase mice, run through walls, do all kinds of things. It is super difficult. Then after you complete your first challenge, we wanted to give you like a nice job, make you feel good about it. And then the story always continues after the chapter, and then there's kind of a wrap up, kind of like a big, you completed the chapter image, and then it goes into the next one, and we establish a new scene. Here we fly to a warehouse, so the whole setting is in this warehouse. That's where we discover some old ASIC miners that have been just stashed there for a really long time, and then you need to interact with those. The third one, chapter 3 now, that's kind of the 51% attack. This is the first time. This was another thing that was very difficult until recently. The consistency of characters. That has been super important, super difficult to do. And only recently now with character references has this become more easily. So in about a year ago or so, I had to come up with the images in a way that no face is ever shown twice from the front. You would only see a face once from the front. Otherwise, it would be from like smaller or from the back or so, because it could never be consistent, right? So that was a limitation that we've also, gotten away from a little bit. Yeah, and then our villain is introduced for the first time here, Thomas Vanderpool, a little bit kind of a spooky, mysterious figure, but you'll get to learn more about him in the future. Then we collaborate with a bunch of other miners who are just the coolest people in the world. They're the people who run mining pools. Then chapter 4, you're kind of sitting at home. This is kind of, it's turning dark now. We actually try to consider the time of day for these different scenes also, right? This is your kind of at home coding. And I think you're generating your own keys now for your Bitcoin wallet. So you learn key generation in this process. Then, we have a TV studio where there's certain scenes that happen. The next one is back in your apartment here. You get to meet your sidekick, which used to be a guy called Mike Raman at the beginning. Now she's called Mika 3000, which I think was a good twist. She likes to wear very colorful outfits. Then we go to a private island, right? We kind of sneak in and break in. Then later on, we go back to the new studio where stuff happens. And then the ending is set in this fancy futuristic bar. That's kind of where the last thing happens. And that is the stuff that's not completely done yet. The story is being kind of finalized, but there's basically a setting in the bar where you talk to the bartender and he talks you through the setting up Lightning transactions and the game theory of that. So if you look at the document back, I tried to summarize real quick what you learn in each chapter. So Mo, you got to learn how to use an explorer to decode transactions. Then you go through hashing, mining, key generation, signature validation, constructing transactions blocks, blockchain structures, Bitcoin script, and complex signing logic like multi-sig stuff, and then the whole Lightning channel setup and game theory. So, if you look at the document back, I tried to summarize real quick what you learn in each chapter. So Mo, you got to learn how to use an explorer to decode transactions. Then you go through hashing, mining, key generation, signature validation, constructing transactions blocks, blockchain structures, Bitcoin script, and kind of whole Lightning channel setup and game theory. So the first challenge was pretty straightforward. But then let's take a look at chapter 9 or so. You're like, you're writing some pretty complex. I'm not. Need to switch over here. You're writing some pretty complex script stuff here. So that's where, there was a time in this. I'll answer the question in a sec. There was a time around in the middle of the chapters where I basically said, I don't understand this anymore. I, I really
I,
need your help deciding this
I,
stuff.
Christoph, I
Yeah.
feel like you and I both kind of hit that point where it's like, okay, this is beyond our brains. This is cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did. Yeah, I did pick up some more of this, but it became very clear. Like, I'm not the target audience. Even with like chapter 3 design around mining, I was like, oh, we're gonna have this playful interface. You just press it and animates and this. And then the feedback from the dev gang was like, this is I'm not coding anything, right? This is kind of an auto, like we need to do more hardcore coding. And it really gets into that. It gets really, really difficult for me at the end. Luckily,
There's something,
go ahead.
Christoph, there's something interesting about that chapter 3 conversation, the mining one, because from a uh, you know persona point of view, it doesn't match who we're building for at present. It doesn't match who we're building for. And while it is educational and edutainment, all it has you do is click buttons. It doesn't involve at present anything to do with coding or like any sort of like extra step that you need to take to achieve or finish the goal. And yes, it might act as a reprieve in the game to just have a lighter lesson, but on the other hand, it's one of those things where if we want to be congruent and consistent to who we're building for, we do need to go and make a change to this after and make it a little bit more complex and difficult, right? This is an example of building for a certain archetype or persona where we made something cool, but we didn't make something congruent. Daniel?
I'm not sure how much feedback you're actually looking for today, but I do have some on the chapter 1 challenge that we went through and stuff. For context, I would say, casual plus programmer. I build stuff. I program. Sometimes every day. So when I was doing the decoding and stuff, I was like, it was quite close to what I normally do, copy paste some stuff. Sometimes I know what I'm copying, sometimes I don't, but it was just a comment here, like, most people, and even including me, could use a refresher on like, okay, a format called hex. Okay, I know that stands for hexadecimal, but I don't quite always know, remember what's behind that. The same with, we run a command to turn it into ASCII, which we'll be able to read. Okay, can that be expanded? So, I don't think you're going to do this, but in my mind, I was immediately kind of thinking, could I kind of hover over hex, hover over ASCII, and there's some kind of small kind of, what's it called that we have in the Bitcoin design guide? We have with all the terms, right? Anyway, something that explains it in one sentence, right? And the same with the actual command. It would be nice with a little explanation below, just like, XXD means and -R means and -P means, something so I could learn when I wanted to. I felt that, okay, I did it, but did I learn a lot? I'm not sure.
That's a good point, and those should actually be there because we talked about this. It's this stuff. So we have, and that's where maybe that's where we need feedback because we're just not consistent with it. You might not. I think there was some feedback on this that I had on chapter 9 as well. So we have mechanisms for that. We have like little underlines with tooltips that explain it to you. There's also sometimes a little cat next to a piece of text, and if you click it, it goes to ChatBTC and asks the AI about the specific question to explain you this whole stuff with references. And then there's actually, and this is also not really obvious, there's a little info button at the top. And if you press that one, you always get learning material to what you're looking at. Some of that is not filled. There are some empty pages. There's also often a toggle that gives you the solution. Sometimes not the complete solution, but just kind of pseudo code, right, that gets you closer to it. So that is something that totally needs to be refined with feedback. Where what are the stumbling blocks? What do people not catch up or pick up on? We introduced also a little pointer in some screen that says, "Hey, there's this info button up there. You can refer to it anytime." So yeah, that is, and what Art mentioned too. It's like, are things challenging enough? Are they too challenging? There are all kinds of ideas floating around. Actually, one chapter now has a hard mode. So you can do it in regular mode and you can do it in hard mode. So that's something that needs to mature as this thing rolls out and feedback comes in. So that's very good feedback. Were there any other questions on?
How long would you expect this to? How do you see the person playing the game? Would you see them playing it consistently until they get all the way to the end? Is that sort of is it designed in a way that it can be played in a day, or like in a 24 hours if someone just really just sits there and becomes a zombie? Or is it more like we want you to finish it over a week? What's the feel there in terms of how it's designed?
I would expect it to be a bit more long-term usage. There's also the idea that it's used for classes. For
Okay.
example, if Bitshala and their code fellowship or Summer of Bitcoin want to run students through it, or other type of dev initiatives, that it is part of a curriculum, and you teach a little bit, and maybe along with that you make the students go through the content because it covers these different sections, right?
Yeah.
But as far as an individual on their own time, that's kind of up to them. I would be really surprised if someone can pull this off in one session. They must be really experienced.
That would be extremely impressive.
Hmm.
And if they can, then is this probably not, because they already know the things.
Is there an option for two people? I mean, I'm just thinking like I actually tried coding at some point 4 years ago because I wanted to learn, proper like become a blockchain developer, but that didn't work. But at some points I was really stuck, and I went across many forums and I asked questions and there were no answers. So I was stuck, and then I was stuck for a whole week. But is there an opportunity here for people to interact with each other if they are stuck? Or is that maybe MVP 10 or MVP 30?
So here's something that fell by the wayside in let me go. Chapter 4 is elliptic curve cryptography, but chapter 3 in this screen here, that is where you're in a mining. You're trying to defeat a 51% attack, so you need to gather hash rate, and you yourself with your measly miners you can't do it, and
Hmm.
you're waiting for other miners to join you. So one of
Yeah.
the beginning ideas was, let's make this collaborative. Let's give people a link that they can send out, and then their friends or maybe anyone can join, and people kind of get matched up. But that fell by the wayside. It's a cool idea, however, like you need, like if I send you a link, like how soon are you going to respond? Do I need everyone at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Some of this stuff only works if you have a large audience, like you're some big video game or so.
Yeah.
And then just we really wanted to revisit this stuff at some point proper, and first really just try to get all the base content, get the challenges done, and then kind of take it from there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And also, I think someone who tried to teach this in a classroom setting also had requests like, how can I? Because all you need right now is a private key to log in.
Mhm.
There's no email password. You log in with your private key, which is also used in the story later to generate your wallet and stuff. So you kind of need to pay attention to it. But that means there's no central tracking or emails. You can't reach to people. We can't email people like, hey, finish chapter 7 or whatever, right? So it's going to require some innovative approaches, I think. And it's not really clear that that's the next step, at least to me. I don't know, Art, do you feel like there's clarity now about specifically, kind of the
Yes,
group interactions
clarity.
around this?
The clarity about next steps is tabconf, and then everything else is after that.
Getting user feedback, right?
That's
Putting
correct. Yes.
it out there. Yeah.
And that's the hope, right? This tabconf is kind of like a mega feed, like basically just throwing it to the wolves, like really getting good market feedback. We have a working session where we're going to get maybe a dozen people going through it. We're going to have a table set up where we can show it to people and have them interact with it, and leaning into that as a way of advocating for direction and strategy. But then zooming out, there's a non-zero chance that a user may be able to add an email, but it's opt-in versus mandatory, right? For example. So there are ways of thinking about it. Another thing that is in the works is difficulty levels. Like you mentioned, Christoph, there's already a level with that, but doing it across the product as opposed to just in a certain chapter, right? So there's musings of thoughts, but the main push obviously has been to create a functional product that we can display with pride at TabConf.
So next week, make or break.
Whoa.
We shall see. Yeah. And it's interesting, right? It's such a different approach to education, right? Does a Bitcoin dev tool need a story? So one of the things that Jonas really believes in strongly is that the story is important because it also transmits Bitcoin culture and Bitcoin values. Right? It talks about the 51% attack. It talks about the anonymous creator. There's just all kinds of stuff packed into this. How Lightning comes in at the end. So that's kind of the reason why it's a story in a way too. So it works on multiple levels. So just, honest feedback. How do you feel about how does this thing come together for you? Does it feel like Frankenstein, or what do you make of it?
Well, I really need to spend some time and get past chapter 1, because that's kind of what I've seen. I've seen it now again, and I saw it, at the beginning. It's always felt very impressive to me. Just because it's such a complex thing to pull off. It's a story, there's a tech component, there are all these visual elements and incredible imagery, and there's a website that is actually interactive. So it's a huge project. It shouldn't really be possible to pull this off like you have, but so that's kind of all I can say at the moment, not having played any deeper. It feels very impressive, and it has huge potential, and it should be getting more exposure. Obviously, you've been working on it, but it feels like it's very close to being ready for being fully exposed to the Bitcoin ecosystem. It doesn't feel like it's kind of gotten that exposure and that recognition and that love. So I think that would be nice to see. And of course, my mind also spins off in lots of other ways, right? Like, okay, when is the Netflix adaptation coming out? And when's the movie? What season 2, right? Yeah, I'll stop there. But it's very impressive. Applauds to the whole team.
Yeah, for sure.
Kudos. And then an important question: when is the designer education version happening of this one, where you don't learn code but you learn Bitcoin design?
Yay! Yeah. Yes to that. Plus 10.
Yeah. Did any of the others have any questions or thoughts or anything that you're curious about? We have about 10 minutes to go. Happy to, or even if you want to talk about Midjourney or anything you'd like to talk about, totally open.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you something about Midjourney. like, because I have used Midjourney a year ago, and when I try to put, for example, text inside an image, it's so hard. Like, you showed already the image of the police text. The guy, it's so hard to do it a year ago. I haven't used Midjourney recently, so I'm not sure if it becomes more easier to do it or not. Like, for example, putting text in an image, in a mug, on a t-shirt or something like this.
So here you go. Here we have, this is from last week or 2 weeks ago. If you can see that in my background, that is, Bitray is the bad guy's company. And that kind of worked out. However, it can do that if you put it in parentheses, but you cannot get it fully consistent. And it looks like, so this, I'm using the Niji render, which is specifically for anime. Like, it has different models. Midjourney has an anime model. So the regular model might do text kind of differently. But how about we just hop over there? And I think you could get some decent results today. It really has gotten a lot better. You just need to put it in parentheses, and I think you'll find examples there too. Oh yeah, I was looking for something today. It's called help, and you see like help wanted, help, but you also see like help me here on the left. So it works better, but it's not. Helping
I
hands is
love
hyping,
that. I love the
hyping
HEP one.
hunts. Yeah, it's yeah, it's gotten better, but I'm gonna go over to my create, actually my create page. Let's go to small. It's like it just takes a ton and tons of images here. Like, I have thousands in there, and sometimes it's like, okay, I just need one good shot of this person from the back, and it takes like 50 images, and then I get it right. But it's a lot of trial and error. But yeah, but it's great when you find that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I was struggling really with it last year. Like, I can't put any text on it. You can put the text, but it looks very, very bad. And I think recently the image that you showed me, at least it gets much better compared to before.
Yes, they make huge strides, and something that I think is really awesome here too. So for example, let's say we take this little girl here. We can go to the editor. I can say, well, I want legs too. Just give me some legs here, right? And redo this part of the hair, right? So, and then I can just press create, and it's just gonna, let's actually see what happens here. Submit. I think I set it too slow right now, so it might take some time here for this to go through. But like, it's just going to add that bottom of the thing, and it's going to redo that part of the image, and I can just keep doing that. The tools have gotten so good.
This is the Midjourney, the explore page. This, what will you imagine? It works now.
Well, that's the create page. So there's the explore, right?
Yeah.
Where you can browse other people's stuff. And I can say, oh, I like this image. I want to use this image for a new prompt, or I want to use this style, or I want to use this text. So you can just kind of freely borrow from other images, and then say, like, I want to use this image, but I want to render this thing with this style, or with this person in this pose, or so. So it's gotten, the web interface is such a huge improvement from the Discord bot. Did you use the Discord bot a year ago?
I'm only using the Discord bot. What is the link to this web interface?
It's just midjourney.com. It was in an alpha for a long time. I don't know if it's rolled out to everyone. It doesn't say alpha anymore.
And the Discord bot was an amazingly crude MVP, right? It's incredible that it got so much usage.
Totally.
The most unhelpful interface I've ever come across, I think.
Yeah. And so the image generation in my background is, I set it too slow because I was at the end of my credits. Like, I have 15 hours per month, and I used it all up.
But from a product point of view, their scaling approach to use Discord was actually brilliant
Mm.
because it forced social proof, it forced interactions, it forced learning how others are using the product. It was high friction, high output.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean that's when it shows you have a product that people really want, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna jump through these hoops.
And Midjourney so far, I mean, I've used the ChatGTP image generator as well. It's just not even comparable. It doesn't. I've not found any other image generator that has the same quality as Midjourney. So
Mm.
they're pretty much sailing ahead there.
And while this is loading, I mean, I can show you how some of this stuff. This is actually kind of funny. Here I was trying to render two characters in the scene next to each other, like female reporter speaking with an older gentleman in a white suit, and it combined the two people into some weird thing. I've also had it where so here's kind of a typical example where I gave a character reference of this character, and I gave a room or a style reference of this room, and then I gave it more instructions, right? And so I give it two images, I give it prompt, and then it combines the things together. But yeah, rendering two people in the same room is like almost impossible. Like things start bleeding into each other. Like Mika 3000, I prompted her to be like of Brazilian heritage with like a little bit of curly hair. If I put her and the main guy, who is more Asian, together, he gets curly Brazilian hair. Like, just stuff bleeds a little bit. Like you can tell that these things are just, it doesn't understand what it's doing there, really. Yeah, this is taking some time here. But yeah, it's super cool. Oh, there you go. She's popping up with slightly different hair and legs. Got some
The
different
third trousers
here.
are cool. There's some kind of mix between shorts and
Yeah.
sweatpants, different colors.
Yeah, it's super
All right,
cool.
very well done.
Yeah, if you keep playing it, I'd love to get more feedback from you. Try it out. Join the team if you want to help design some more stuff. If you want to generate images, always happy to have more people help out.
There is
with that.
also, sorry for interrupting, Christoph. There is also a feedback form that you can use when you click the question button. It'll give you a prompt to fill out a feedback form.
Awesome. Any other questions, or should we wrap it up? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, thanks. Toby, go for it.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake. I was trying to clap and I tapped. That's by mistake.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Really appreciate it.
Well done, everybody. Well.
I'm gonna stop the recording now.